Good morning, bro. So first of all, there's two ways to train. One, as an athlete, and two, as a bodybuilder. This isn't to say that bodybuilders aren't athletes, but it's to say that they train differently because they train to build muscles. So how do they actually train? First of all, an athlete trains to be more athletic and more fit, while a bodybuilder trains to be bigger, to have bigger muscles. You're probably training like an athlete, but you haven't realized it. You're probably doing very weak reps. The reps that you're doing are probably very fast, low weight. We don't want that. Athletes train with low weight, high reps, while bodybuilders, the other type of athlete, train with low reps, high weight. This isn't to say that they forcefully do low reps, is that their weight is so high that they can only do so many reps. There's a reason for this. Athletes train with high reps, low weight, because they want to build endurance. This is for most athletes. Athletes like football players, European football players, soccer players, they train for high reps, low weight. This is to build insane endurance. And I'm pretty sure NFL, like American football players do this as well, but they also want to build muscles so that they can like tackle players really hard. They want to build as much endurance as possible. However, with bodybuilders, endurance isn't really that much of a concern because they care about building bigger muscles. And you don't build bigger muscles by having more endurance. You build bigger muscles by adding weight, by increasing the weight. Now listen, bro, before we go on, I just want to make sure that you know about my program down in the description below, where I teach you how to manage working out, building muscle as a student. I built a specific split just for you in order to optimize the amount of time that you have as a student, but also while trying to hit as many of your muscle groups as possible. This way, I can teach you how to build muscle as a student. So if you're interested in that, then go click the link in the description and I'll see you there. Let's get back to the video. So first of all, there's a little rule for this. You want to go till absolute failure. That's like absolute number one period. Go till absolute failure, no matter how many reps you can do. If you can do more than 10 or 12, then the weight is probably not high enough with proper form, obviously. So for bodybuilding, right, 10 to 12 reps is sort of like the standard. It's like, okay, if you can go till absolute failure within that sort of range, within 8, 10 to 12, then you're good. Absolute failure. This means like you're going to the point where your face is like that. You're pushing your absolute hardest, like you're about to faint. That's absolute failure. But if you go past that, then the weight is probably not heavy enough. Of course, with proper form, like, oh, you want your arms like, I don't know, at a certain degree angle. With a bench press, you want your legs like that, obviously. So if you're doing more than 12 reps, then you're probably not doing high enough weight. However, of course, like I just said, you need proper form. Like for example, I'll go really quickly with this. With a bench press, you want, in order to train your upper chest for aesthetics, to build muscle, you don't want to train like this because this trains the wrong part. This trains mostly your shoulder, and that can also risk shoulder injury because it trains it horribly. So what you want to do, you want to lower it like that to where it's about a 45-degree angle from your shoulder. So if I draw a line right here, 45-degree angle down to my body, that's where I want my arms to be. So it's like, instead of like this, it would go down like that. Boom, like that. And a quick tip for that, it'll seem like you're touching your body like this, but in fact you're not. You're just not used to having your fucking armpits right here so close to your body when you're benching. So that's a quick little tip. Form does matter, and I would prioritize form over reps, over weight, because it is way more important. The way I see it, the form is way more important than reps because it hits the muscle way better. So if you can do, let's say, I don't know, 16 reps until absolute failure, like you can guarantee that you're going until absolute failure, but with a proper, perfect form, that's better than going until absolute failure at 8 to 10 reps, but with a shit form. That's just very basic stuff, right? So you just want to fix your form first with a proper weight, and then after you guarantee that you have a really good form, that you have a perfect form, then you can start adding weight and being bigger and all of that. And an extra tip, you want to push past failure. So first of all, what does this mean? When we get to failure, we want to get to that point where we're literally gritting our teeth, when we're scrunching our face, where we're going like that, like grunting, going absolute failure. We want to go past that. How do we do this? So first of all, we can do two things. One, we can do a drop set. So drop set means starting the weight off, lateral raises, we'll do 20 pounds like this. We'll keep going. We'll get to the point where we're scrunching our face, where we're going like that. We can't do it anymore. A drop set would be absolute failure and then lowering the weight. lowering the weight like 5 pounds, keep doing those, absolute failure, and then lowering the weight a little bit more, and then keep doing this until you get to absolute failure. This is to ensure that you get to failure, because when we get to failure for, I don't know, 20, 60 pounds, whatever it may be your starting weight, this isn't your true failure. This isn't absolute 100%. This is maybe 90, 85% failure. This is why we want to do a drop set, because that way, sure, the weight is lighter, but we can't do it as hard. We can't do it as much as we could have before. So right now, with the drop set, we want to ensure that we're lowering the weight as much as possible in order to ensure that we're getting to failure. Until we get to the point where we can't even lift like 5 pounds with a lateral raise, like, I don't know, 1 pound with a lateral raise, then we know we haven't hit failure. If you can't lift 1 pound with the lateral raise after that many, then you've hit failure. This is how you build muscle. Now you can add this to your workout. However, you can also integrate it with something else. Assisted reps. So assisted reps means, I'll use a lateral example again. You're lifting, and then when you get to the point where you literally can't lift it by yourself anymore, what you do is just use your hand. Like, let's say for this one, right? I'm just lifting my hand like that. Adding just a little bit of extra force does a ton. If I add, I don't know, a little bit of force on my hand for lateral raises, just a little bit, that can go a long way to going to failure. If I'm doing 20 pounds lateral raises and I just push a little extra, I can do it. And if I do 5 extra reps of those assisted reps, then I can go a long way, a lot further, a lot closer to failure. Now there's 2 ways this can go. Either you can do it by yourself, which, like I just did with lateral raises, you can only do this with one arm workouts like lateral raises and maybe, like, I don't know, 1 arm bicep curls. Or with the 2 arm exercises, like a bench press, for example, this you can do with a partner. A partner is very important because, one, they can literally motivate you, like, hey, go further, you know you got more in you. They can motivate you to go further, but they can also assist you. If you're benching like that, you're going to absolute failure, you've reached your natural limit, and so what they do is they help you up. For a bench press, they would put their arms under your elbows and just help force you up to get more assisted reps and to get closer to failure. The eccentric phase, the part where the muscle stretches, that is the most important part. That's the one we want to focus on. So when we can't lift the weight anymore in the concentric phase, then we need help, because we want to build muscle during the eccentric phase. That's when we do build muscle. So we want to do those as much as possible. The concentric phase isn't as important. It is important, but it isn't as important as the eccentric phase. So for the bench press, I'm doing it, and then I'm getting to the point where I literally can't lift it anymore like this. Someone's gonna help me up like that, and then on the way down, I'm going completely by myself. I'm resisting as hard as I can. They're helping me again, resist, helping me again, resist. This can go a long way till getting you to failure. And now a general rule for basically every single workout is you wanna go fast on the concentric phase and then very slowly on the eccentric phase. So what is the concentric and the eccentric phases? These are just different phases when lifting your muscles, when lifting weights. So I'll use a bicep curl as an example. When you're going down, this is the eccentric phase. Eccentric means that your muscles are expanding, they're stretching out a lot. And the concentric phase means your muscles are contracting. Hence the name concentric phase, they are contracting. Like in this video, you can see me doing a bicep curl. On the way up, I want to try and go as fast as possible, and then on the way down, you can see that I'm very, very controlled. This is the eccentric phase. Now, why do we actually want to be controlled? Mind-muscle connection is very important. The slower you go, the more signals your muscles, your actual muscle fibers, the things inside of your arm, the more signals they send to your brain to say, hey, this weight is very heavy, we need to build more muscle in order to lift it way easier next time. And this is why we literally build muscle. This is why next time you train, you could lift just a little bit more. This is why. Because your muscles literally send signals to your brain to say, hey, we need more muscles because we need to lift this thing fast enough. Because your body can't tell the difference between lifting weights and lifting a weight to run from danger. Your body just knows, okay, I lift this weight a lot, so that means it must be important for my survival. Okay, so that means I have to send a lot of muscle. I have to build muscle in that area so that it becomes easier, so that I don't risk my survival, so that I don't risk dying. Like, think about it in a survival sense. It's like, let's say we use a big fucking rock as a door in our hut, right? Like, remember the Shrek scene in Shrek 1 where Shrek had that hut and he had that wooden door? Imagine like that was a rock, right? But one we could lift. okay? We lift that rock every single day and then we put it back so that predators don't get inside. Our muscle realizes that and it's like, oh shit, we lift this exact same weight every single day. Okay, but it's really fucking hard. And that means if it's really hard, that means it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy to lift the rock and then put it back. In that short time, a bunch of wolves, a bunch of whatever, a bunch of fucking rapists could come and get me. Okay, so what do? I build muscle, I make it easier and quicker for me to lift the weights. We're just manipulating our body. We're manipulating our body in order to build more muscle, not for the sake of survival, but for the sake of aesthetics, for the sake of building muscle, for the sake of being more attractive. Our body can't tell the difference between lifting weights and lifting weights for our survival. When it sees us, when it feels us lifting a weight, it's like, okay, we do this a lot, so that means it probably is important for our survival. Let's make it easier. And then in our mind, we're thinking, okay, now it's easier, time to up the weight, so it's harder, and then it sends more signals to your brain, and then it builds more muscle, and then you see the cycle, right? Basically, we up the weight becomes harder to lift, it sends signals to our brain, the brain builds more muscle, the weight becomes lighter, and then we do this over and over and over again, and this is how people get fucking jacked. The eccentric phase is super important because it basically sends, that little short period has enough time to send more signals into our brain and say like, okay, this is really fucking hard. Let's build more muscle in this phase. Let's build more muscle because it's really fucking hard. Our survival depends on it. But our body doesn't know the difference. It's really fucking funny. So specifically athletes, they want to be as explosive, keep that word in mind, as explosive in the concentric phase as possible. Why? This builds literally an explosion inside their muscles. So remember athletes, right? So a lot of them, basically in every single sport, maybe except golf, but they're not, truth be told, they're not that athletic. But if you see in boxing, in soccer, in American football, in basketball, in basically every single sport, baseball, they run a fuck ton, right? How are they so fast? How are their muscle twitches like twitching so fast so that they can run so fast? How is their launch so fast from 0 to 20 kilometers an hour? How is it so fast? This is how. When they're training legs, they have a weight like this when they're squatting. On the way down, it's very, very controlled. So this is to like build that muscle right there. On the way up, they want to explode. This literally builds a twitch, an explosion, if you will, in the muscles. This is how people are so fast. This is why in boxing, when people actually punch someone else, their fucking punches are insanely fast because they're used to this explosion. They're used to have insane weights on their hands because when we're training boxing, the gloves that we have when training are completely different than the ones that we use when fighting. The ones that we use when fighting are lighter and they hit harder. But the ones that we use when training are bigger and they're heavier, so they're harder to move. That's why when people fight, they're really fast, like, you know, that wasn't so fast, but you get what I mean, right? Explosion is insanely powerful for athletes, and it's also just, you know, a very healthy thing to do. So I'm gonna go over a couple of exercises right now to see like the difference between our eccentric and concentric phases for different muscle groups. Like I said before, in our previous videos, there are push, pull, and leg days. These are like the basic split for bodybuilding. It's really simple. Push muscles are chest, lateral delts, and triceps, and then our pull muscles are back, our biceps, and our rear shoulder, and then our leg day is just, you know, leg day. So first of all, our push muscles, our chest's concentric phase is when we actually lift the weight. When we do a bench press, we lift the weight like that, our muscle contracts like this, right? That's our concentric phase because it's contracting. On the way down, our chest expands, our chest stretches out like this so it's wider. This is where we want to go slowly so that it sends signals to our brain. For a bicep curl on a pull day, when we lift it up, when we pull it towards us, this is the concentric phase. We want to be as fast as possible to build explosion. And then on the way down, when we're resisting and the weight is going away from us, this is the eccentric phase. Our biceps are literally stretching. Like if you see in this video, you see that my biceps are contracting when I pull it towards me, and then they're expanding, they're stretching when it's going away from me. And then for legs, for hamstrings, the concentric phase is when I curl the weight towards me, and then obviously opposite, the eccentric phase is when it's going away. And then for my quads, the concentric phase is when I push the weight away from me, and then the eccentric phase is when the weight comes back and I resist against it. So basically that's all you want to keep in mind. Just try to be as fast as possible in the concentric phase, and then as slow as controlled as possible in the eccentric phase. This is to send signals into our brain and say, okay, we need to build muscles. Anyway, that's about it for today. A little quick video on the eccentric and concentric phases in a bodybuilding workout in order to build more muscles, to send signals into our brain to build more muscle. So if you enjoyed this type of video, then please do subscribe, like button, boost the algorithm to show my video to more people. If you enjoyed this video, check the link in the description below. I have my Instagram and my paid community where I teach you how to build muscle as a student on a tight schedule. I teach you everything you need to know, including everything in today's video and previous videos, so that it's easier for you to learn. So if you're interested in that, then please do click the link in the description. Then I'll see you next time.